Today I'm going to answer the number one question I get as a wedding invitation designer, which is what printer do you use? This is a hard question for me to answer because it feels like asking Taylor Swift what recording equipment she uses or asking Leonardo da Vinci what paintbrushes he uses. I'm not saying I'm as talented as either of them, but the tool doesn't automatically make you good at the art. So if I grabbed the best camera in the entire world, I wouldn't suddenly be a good photographer. And you having the same printer that I use doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be good at designing wedding invitations or that your prints are going to come out the way that you want them if you don't understand how to design for print. So I am going to answer the question. I'm going to tell you exactly which printer I use and what some printers that a lot of other stationery designers use. But if you are interested in pursuing this as a career, listen to some of the other talking points that I'm going to have after that because they will be worth it, I promise. So the quick answer is I use this printer, which is a Laserjet M452DW. This one is out of production. However, they have a new one that's M454DW, and I'm going to link all these in the description for you. And then down here, you can't see it. I use an inkjet printer called the Canon Pixma Pro 100, also out of production. So they have a new one called the Canon Pixma Pro 200. Two other Canon printers that a lot of stationery designers use are the IP8720 and the IX6820. Lots of numbers and letters in these printer names. So those are the printers that I use in-house when I need to print things in-house. But if you're interested in actually being a stationery designer, please stay tuned because I'm going to talk about some of the other considerations. So first of all, I mentioned this is a laser printer and the Canon down there is an inkjet printer. If you're planning on printing in-house, I typically recommend having one of each because they do slightly different things and together they give you a lot of different capabilities. For instance, my laser printer is typically preferred as it's a lot faster and it prints text a lot crisper. So I typically am printing a lot of envelopes on this. It's going to go a lot faster than my other one, and it's going to print the addresses really crisp. Laser printers use toner instead of ink, and therefore they can be a little bit more water resistant. And it can also print on really smooth papers like metallic or certain types of vellum or gloss paper that the inkjet printer can't. A big downfall of the laser printer is that it can't print on really thick papers. So any cards that you want to be standalone, I typically recommend 100-pound or heavier weight paper for invitations, and the laser printer has a lot of trouble with 100-pound or heavier. There are some like higher end, like $10,000 plus laser printers that can handle those thicker papers. However, most of us are not interested in making that kind of investment right now at this point in our businesses. So the inkjet printer, on the other hand, it can do some things that the laser printer can't. As I mentioned, it's a little slower and it's not going to be as waterproof, and it can't print on some of those smooth papers, but it can print on handmade paper, which is great. And it can print envelopes with the flap open. If you put flap open envelopes in the laser printer, then the adhesive can interact with the printer in a way that makes it completely not usable, completely breaks the whole thing. So we don't recommend printing open flap. So I have to run my envelopes through the laser printer for the guest address as well as the main address. I have to run it through twice, whereas I could on my inkjet printer run it through only once with the flap open. For me, the inkjet printer is slightly less reliable for color matching and uses more ink than the laser printer uses toner. So that can get a little bit more expensive. It's a little more expensive to operate my inkjet printer, but I do love keeping both of them in rotation because you kind of never know certain sizes and types of paper and different projects that you're going to have might require something that one can't do and the other one can do. So I really like having both of them in rotation, even though I'm going to use my laser printer significantly more often for the things that I print in-house. So if you're just starting out and buying your first printer, I might recommend the inkjet. But if you have the ability to invest in both, then I would recommend an inkjet and a laser printer. The next thing I'd ask you is if you really want to do a lot of your printing in-house. I personally try to avoid printing in-house as much as possible, and I only print things in-house that I need a little special attention to, or that I can't really outsource for some reason, or the timeline doesn't really work out or something like that. So mostly I end up printing envelopes, handmade paper, and vellum, and like really small jobs or samples in-house. And that's pretty much it. I try to outsource everything else. The main reason a lot of beginning stationery designers try to print everything in-house is to save money. So you look at 0.003 cents per print on the toner cartridges for this printer, and you think, oh my gosh, that's so much cheaper than paying 55 cents per print at a printer, for instance. However, that's only cheaper if you don't account for or value your time at all. And the more clients that you have, the less time you're going to have. So printing in-house can be a good thing. It can give you a little more quality control. It can give you more control of your pricing. It can feel a little bit cheaper. However, you have to also allow for things like extras. So if I order 100 pieces from my printer, they're going to send me exactly 100 pieces, no matter how many extras it took to get there. If I'm printing 100 pieces, I need to order like 120 so that I can do some testing and have all those extras. So then I have to pay for those additional 20, where I don't if I just order 100 from a print shop. You also have to account for time as far as just monitoring the prints, making sure they're doing correctly, changing ink cartridges, whatever it is. You have to account for time of testing, and you'll find that getting colors to match and getting things to print correctly can be a little bit challenging. If you've ever had to try to print something on a rush from your printer, whether it's just like a random document, you'll know what I mean when I say that printers can be a little bit temperamental. So imagine doing that like every day for your paying clients, especially if you're on a rush timeline of some sort. And then there's all kinds of finishing services that print shops provide that you don't necessarily consider when you're ordering from them. For instance, if you're printing any design that goes to the edge of the page, you're going to have to print it on a larger piece of paper and then cut it down to the final size. So how do you cut 100 cards down to size if you don't also have a large scale cutter or something like that? I don't have room for those kind of things in my office, and I don't really want to spend my time cutting paper down when I could spend my time designing, filming content for you guys, etc. So I like to focus on being a designer and let printers focus on being printers. And a lot of those print shops can also fold things for you, drill holes for you, just do so many other finishing things that you don't really think about until you're actually in the middle of the job. So yes, printing things in-house can seem like it's cheaper, but when you actually add up like going and getting something cut down, all the extras that you have to order, all the testing that you have to do, and of course, all the time that it takes to do that, it's only going to continue getting more and more expensive as your time becomes more limited and therefore more valuable. There's a reason that printing is a job and design is a job. So you kind of have to ask yourself like how much of that you want to intermingle and where you draw the line. I kind of draw the line at, I have these two pieces of equipment. I don't have any large cutting, scoring, hole drilling, etc. pieces of equipment. And I'm only really going to print things that I absolutely have to, because outsourcing them is just not a great option. So then the question of what printer you use changes when you learn that outsourcing is typically what I do and a lot of other stationery designers do. So when we say the word printer, we think we mean a little machine like this, but if I were referring to print shops, what print shops do I use? My number one favorite is going to be PrintsWell Fulfillment. You create an account with them and they have really amazing pricing, a super simple ordering system, and pretty much all of your well-rounded stationery products that they offer. And most of their orders ship in 1 or 2 days, so it's just really easy to use them. And if you use my affiliate link, you will get $25 off your first order, because I absolutely love them and send them every print job that I can possibly send them. A second one that I love that's very similar is actually Stationery HQ. PrintsWell is in Alabama, Stationery HQ is in California. So if you're on the West Coast, you might get your orders a little faster if you use them. They have a lot of stationery items, as well as things like signage, mugs, notebooks, some like gifting items. They do custom wrapping papers. So they have more products than PrintsWell does. And I find that their pricing is really similar. I have a couple other videos about them on my channel as well. And then a third option is Mingo Press. They do a little bit of everything. I've never sent them a job that they've said no to. So, and if you have anything that's a little complicated, you're not exactly sure how to order it or where you're going to get it printed, definitely talk to Mingo Press, because they are wonderful and have amazing customer service that will kind of hold your hand throughout the whole process. So yes, I did answer the question of what printer you use, and I'll link all the models that I mentioned in the description for you. However, I want to remind you that the tool doesn't all of a sudden make you good at the job. So designing for print and printing are kind of two different but related skills. I have a few other videos here on my channel that will help you with that. But if you are interested in becoming a full-on stationery designer, I have a foundational course that you'll love called From Start to Suite. I'll link it in the description for you, but it's going to teach you all the different pitfalls that come with designing for print and how you can create beautiful wedding invitations and run a successful invitation business for your clients. So let me know what questions you have about printers. I'd be happy to answer them in the best way that I can, but I don't want to just give you the answer of the tool and leave you to figure the rest out on your own. So next time you think, I wonder what printer she uses, just remember it's a little bit more complex of an answer, but all of those models are going to be listed in the description for you if you just want the simple answer. Thanks, everyone.